Today we're going to be showing you guys how simple, fun, and easy it is to make your very own custom fingerboard with a graphic on it. We're going to just run through the things that we need to start building the fingerboards. It's quite an extensive list, so pull out a pen and piece of paper, take notes. So first up, we have our wood veneer. I think I got this whole stack for about 30-40 bucks. It has everything you need to make probably 100 boards. Next up is some sandpaper. I recommend anywhere between 120 and 110 for sandpaper. Next up, you will need a Dremel tool. It's not just the Dremel tool you'll need a bunch of these different accessories. First up, you're going to need this micro saw blade. You will need a 1/16 drill bit. This drills out the truck holes. This right here is a ball Dremel bit. This bevels out the truck holes to make it so the screws can fit nice and flush inside of the deck. This right here is the sandpaper bit. This allows you to shape the board once it's out of the mold. Make sure to pick up extra sandpaper pieces because you will run through these very quickly. Next, you're gonna need two different types of heads. This one right here can fit the 1/16 drill bit. This next one, it makes it so you can fit the micro saw. It makes it so you can fit the ball bit, and it also makes it so you can fit the sandpaper bit as well. One of the most important pieces that you're gonna need is some Elmer's wood glue. Next up, you will need gloss clear. Make sure to get the clear cap. This helps just seal the board, make it feel better, make it feel smoother. So definitely pick up some of these. Next, you have your fingerboard mold. This is a really cool one. It has the metal guides, so that way you can drill the holes without destroying the plastic 3D printed mold. I've included a link down in the description below if you're looking to pick one of these up. Next, you have a fingerboard shaper. This one is definitely optional, but this just helps you get the most professional shape out of your board, and that just helps you figure out the shape of your board. Last but definitely not least, some C-clamps. One of the last things that you will need, a color printer with some printer paper. Honestly, you could just go to your local library and print it off for free, and that's pretty much it for all the stuff you need. So let's get into building your first fingerboard. Step number one is you want to make sure that you have your veneer. Probably one of the more important steps in making a really strong board and will last a really long time is to switch up the direction of the grain on each one of the plies. First ply is going to be our top ply. This one is with the grain, so it bends this way, and we'll just work on the second ply. This one is going to be against the grains. This one bends this way. So we're going to continue doing this interchanging. Next one is going to go with the grain, next one against the grain, and we'll have 5 plies. As a side note, cutting these out with scissors works, but what ends up happening is the scissors can really break the ply, cause cracks and such. So I like to use this little knife, this little key knife, works beautifully. Break it out of there, and there we go. That's the third ply. And boom, just like that, we have each one of our 5 plies. As you can see, grain's going this way, this one's grain's going this way, this one's grain is going that way, and then that way. Now it's just time to glue these all together. Now we have our handy dandy wood glue, and we're gonna start spreading evenly on each one of these plies a nice layer of wood glue. Nice thin layer. Now we place the next ply on there, and then we just copy the process. Fourth ply. Boom, 5th ply. And the nice one about the 5th ply is you don't have to use any glue. You just set that bad boy right on there. And now you have your nice pack of wood veneer all glued and ready to go into the mold. So let's show you guys how that's done. So we have our fingerboard mold, we have our fingerboard plies. Open it up and set it ever so nicely into there. So now that we have that into the mold, now it's time to just clamp it down. I put this scrap piece of wood on the bottom and scrap piece of wood on the top. You can see that it's just right above where the trucks would be. That's probably the perfect place to clamp it down. And let's get this other clamp put on the other side. Now that this is clamped into the clamps in the mold, we got the veneer ready to go. We have to wait a whole 24 hours. I like to wait 36 so that it gives it plenty of time to dry and solidify. And then we pull it out of the mold. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Now that it's been 24 hours, we can now take our fingerboard out of the fingerboard mold. But before I finally take it out, we first had to drill the truck holes And with this very particular fingerboard mold, it has metal guides, so that way you can make sure to drill the truck holes and they're perfect. You don't have to worry about them being off-centered or anything like that. So let's grab the Dremel tool, drill the holes through this fingerboard, and then finally take it out and reveal our product. So for drilling the fingerboard truck holes, you're gonna need this head and this 1/16 drill bit attached to it, so that way you can drill the holes. Now, working with the Dremel on this one, I like to make sure that it's on a low setting, so that way we don't destroy the bit inside of the metal holes. We keep it at around, I like to put it around 4 or 5. So now that we have the truck holes all dremeled out, let's pull it out of the mold. So now it's just time to shave it down, draw the guides on it, and then it'll be good to go to start putting the graphic on. So we take our fingerboard guide, line it up onto the deck, just like that. And now we can take our trusty dusty pen and mark the shape just like that. Now, even if you don't have one of these tools, you can always use a spare deck. All you have to do is just line up the holes on top of one another. And then once you have the holes lined up, then you draw your guide around that. It's not as trustworthy, especially with the shape, so I would definitely recommend picking up one of these if you're looking to build your own decks. But if you don't, this option works as well. For this next part, we're gonna switch out from this head over to this head, so that way we can slip the mini saw into it and now cut out the shape of our deck. Now, as you can see, there wasn't a whole lot of excess on the sides of the deck, which is why I'm not going to risk it by trying to drill into it. I'm just going to use one of our sander bits, file it down, and get it in a nice shape without risking destroying the whole deck itself. So, now as a little side note, as you can see, this sander has gotten really caked up with all that wood. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch it out for an extra one of these sander bits, so that way we can cut through the deck and make the sanding process quicker, smoother, and easier. And boom, just like that, we were able to cut off all the excess, sand down, all the way down to our line there. But before we jump into hand sanding it, this is where this ball drill bit is going to come into play. You can see how these holes have little bevels in them. That's for the screws to sink better into the deck and be flush with it instead of poking out. So this ball drill bit will be used to bevel out the holes to make it so the screws fit better into it. We drill into the same hole that we drilled for the truck, but we just bevel it out. And you can see I've already drilled this first one. The ball almost disappears inside of that truck hole. That's about the depth gauge that you want to use. You want to make sure that it gets down to the end of the ball, because that'll get 1 to 2 plies deep, and that's perfect depth for the screws to sit nicely. Boom, it's easy as that. Now our deck is ready to be sanded down. So now that we got the board all nice and shaven down, now it's time to apply the graphic. Now, I designed a couple of these graphics inside of Photoshop, printed them off on my work computers. So we're just gonna apply one of these graphics that I've made. My personal favorite is this one. Got the 2 tired with the signature and a cool little design for the nose. Now, applying this to the board is much like how we did the veneers. We just do a thin layer of glue, set this down nice and good, shape it to the board, and then shave off all the extra. So let me show you guys how that's done. Here we have our graphic that we're gonna be using. We got the board here. You wanna make sure that your hands are clean before you apply the graphic, or else the graphic will start looking all dirty and messy. What we wanna do is we wanna make sure that it's lined up, there's no missing spots. And then once we think that we have it kind of centered, we start slightly crimping the edges of the graphic around the edges of the board. Slowly fold the graphic around the edges of the board. Boom, just like that. Now we just let it dry for a moment, and then we'll be able to sand off all the extra. Now that we've given the graphic a chance to dry, now that it's glued to the board, we're just gonna take one of our 120 grit sandpapers and we're just going to sand off all the extras. Now, if you've ever applied fingerboard grip tape, the process is the exact same. You just do a one-way swipe down and then just slowly take away all the excess. Just like sanding the board, take your time on this. Make sure that you really pay attention to the fine details and just slowly remove the graphic using the sandpaper. Now boom, just like that, we have our graphic applied to our board, perfectly sanded off around all of the edges. Before I start clear coating, I have one of these masks because if you inhale the fumes too much, you get lightheaded, destroys your brain cells. It's no fun. I made sure to do really quick and even strokes using the clear coat onto the deck. That way we didn't drench the graphic. Then we flip it around, do the other side, and then we let it dry for about 30 minutes. Now after letting that dry for about 30 minutes, we finally have the final product deck. Let's take a look at this. So as you guys can see, the clear coat added a nice little shine to it. The deck is nice and glossy and everything looks absolutely beautiful with this deck. Now all I have to do is just put my signature Too Tired on the top, and boom, there is the final product, the Too Tired fingerboard. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like on this video. These decks came out really strong. A lot of love, a lot of hard work, a lot of craftsmanship went into this. It's taken me, a couple of years to figure out how to use the Dremel tool correctly, how to get the shape right, how to make sure that I'm using enough glue, and how to make the graphic works. If you like this one, it's exclusively on FB Fingerboards. The link is in the description. And on top of that one, we also have this one that I was making in the process of making this video. As you guys can see, it's the Blue Eyes White Dragon Too Tired model. Really appreciate you guys watching until the end. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I will see you guys in the next video.